Hello guys, and welcome to episode 8 of Construction Rocks. Now on this episode of Construction Rocks, we will focus on a skill that I myself haven't done a lot. And that is to make and hang doors into a wall. Now when most construction workers build a house, they would usually use pre-made doors. Making a pre-made door is no big deal. I mean, take a look. The frame's already made and the door's already hung inside the frame. But what if you have to make your own door and hang it? What's involved? You remember my doghouse, right? My dogs are getting excited, and my mom tells me she's gonna have to take out a mortgage on it. Since the last episode where we put up the walls, I put plywood inside and out. And I persuaded my little brothers to paint it for me. Man, they drove a hard bargain. Well, I'm hanging a door on this doghouse. Now you might say to yourself, but Cassler, didn't you notice that dogs don't have opposable thumbs? So how the heck are they gonna open the door? Ah, but the door isn't for the dogs, according to my mother. It's for me, so that I can periodically clean out the doghouse. So the doors are really for the dog's butler, me. So no pre-made door is gonna fit here. I had to make my own, and I did. So basically I had to toenail 4 2x4s like this. And after that, I basically sandwiched it with exterior and interior plywood and added trim around it. Okay, so how the heck am I gonna hang these doors on the doghouse? Well, that's the focus of our episode today. So narrator?
Yeah?
Could you explain how to hang a door while I work on it?
Wait, me?
Yeah, you.
Okay, fine.
Sheesh.
Okay, the first thing to do is to measure and cut out these pieces of wood called door jambs. They are what hold the actual door, and they are usually made from 1x6 material. So first you would rip them to the thickness of the walls right after the plywood has been added to both sides. So for mine, I ripped it 4 inches. Next you need to determine the length for the height of each door jamb piece. So for the top jamb, make it the width of the door plus each thickness of the vertical jamb plus 3/16. So for example, my door width is 3 feet 3 3/4 inches, and each jamb piece is 3/4 inches. So when we add it all up, we get 3 feet 5 inches and 7/16. So for each of the vertical jambs, make it the door height plus 1/8 of an inch plus 1/2 of an inch for the minimum of the space between the door and the floor. So for my door, its height is 3 feet 3 inches and 11/16. And when we add 1/8 of an inch and 1/2 of an inch to that, it is 3 feet 4 inches and 5/16. So after measuring, cutting, and connecting the jambs together, we need to add our stop edge pieces on. These pieces, as you might guess, stop the door when it is being closed. So basically, we first cut the top stop to the inside width measurement of the door jamb. Then we measure the thickness of the door and measure down the jamb that measurement. Then we nail that stop to the measurement to make the door flush. Then measure from the top stop down, and that will be our measurement for the vertical stops. Then check to make sure that the door is flush to the jamb. The next step is to figure out where to put our hinges. A regular door has a hinge on its center 9 inches from the top of the door and 13 inches from the bottom. The middle is the halfway point between the two centers of the top and bottom hinges. Obviously we can't do that with my door since it's smaller. So instead, I marked 3 inches from the top and 4 5/16 inches from the bottom, and found the middle one by taking measurements. Next, we put a mark as to how much of the hinge is going to cover the door. This measurement should be the same for the door jamb. Next, we take a sharp knife and cut the mark we just made. Then we go ahead and chisel in place where the hinge is going to be. So the first thing you do to start your chiseling is to first tap in the marks which you already made with the sharp knife with your chisel. Then you do the same thing across the entire length of the place where you're going to put your hinge. And after that, you go ahead and put your hand at an angle, and then you tap in. And make sure that you lift your hand up so that it doesn't go deep into the wood. And do that across the entire length of the place where you're going to put your hinge. Now, periodically, check to make sure that the hinge is going to be flush in the place where you chiseled out. So after chiseling out the doors, go ahead and do the exact same thing for the door jambs. And then we screw in the hinges. So after making sure the hinges work, we take our door frame to the rough opening. Now, a useful thing to do is to nail a scrap piece of board to one of the sides of the door jamb to make sure that it is flush to the wall. Then we take these thin angled pieces of wood called shims. Now, these shims will adjust the distance between the jamb and the rough opening to get the jambs level. So after installing the shims at the top, go ahead and take your level and make sure that the jambs are level all the way down by adding shims to different points along the crack. Along with making sure that the vertical jambs are level, make sure that the horizontal jamb is level too, because it could mess up the way in which the door opens if it's not level. Now, if it happens to be not level, go ahead and take a shim and tap it under the vertical jamb to make it level. So after checking and rechecking, screw the jambs into the shims to the rough opening. Now the shims will be broken off and the space will be covered by trim. So after all that hard work, the doors should be able to open like butter. Okay, it's your turn.
Well, there you go. Oh, and thank you, by the way. Well, I hope you learned at least one thing from this episode. Well, I better get back to my second life. I mean, after all, who doesn't have a secret identity? Come on, Sherlock, let's go.